Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Big changes are coming to the city's Roseland Golf Clubhouse in South Windsor. While it's unclear exactly what will be built in its place, housing appears to be on the horizon. The CBC's Dawson Chen brings us the story.
By this time next year, this municipally owned building in South Windsor will no longer exist. City Council has awarded a $2.5 million contract to demolish the former Roseland Golf and Curling Club. But what's to be built in its place remains undecided. Roseland's golf course is as busy as ever, despite the clubhouse being closed to the public since 2020. About 18 months ago, the city announced that the 46-year-old building is among the municipally owned properties that can be sold for housing development. City administration is currently drafting a request for expressions of interest on constructing a new golf clubhouse and potentially a luxury condo complex. In the meantime, Sterling Ridge General Contracting will be doing the demolition. Ward 1 Councillor Fred Francis was the only council member who voted against awarding the demolition contract. He pointed out that an expert consultant told council the cost is higher than what's typical for this work. And Francis has concerns there hasn't been real community input on what's to come at the site.
I talked to a bunch of people in the construction industry just to see what they thought. Anyone I've ever talked to about that said thought it was too high. The fact that we have the sale or the potential sale of public land at Roseland and the public's never had a say on if we should do that or not, or what that would look like, really rubs me the wrong way. If you're going to sell public land, the public should have a say. With Roseland, that's never happened.
Catherine Archer, who lives near the Roseland property, is among the community residents who have spoken against the city's plans. She notes that there's still a possibility the Ontario Land Tribunal will reinstate the land's heritage designation, possibly putting a halt on any development.
This is premature because the Land Tribunal has the final say on this, so they should at least wait until that decision comes back before they continue with this process. That's not what people want in this area. You know, it's not affordable housing. It's not something that works with the community from traffic or safety perspective. It's going to make this area much different.
Demolition is expected to begin before the end of this year. It's hoped that the work will be finished before spring 2026. As for whatever will be built on the property, city administration says construction likely won't happen until 2027 or later. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Leamington mushroom company Highline is being ordered to pay $115,000 after one of its workers was injured on the job. Now, the accident happened 2 years ago. In July 2023, an unidentified worker was critically injured at the facility in Kingsville. The worker became entangled in a net that a machine was rolling and washing. That's according to the Provincial Ministry of Labour, which issued the fine. The ministry's investigation found there were no measures in place to prevent workers from becoming entangled when adjusting nets on the machine. And it's not the first time the company has faced penalties over serious worker injuries at its facilities. In May 2019, Highline was fined $75,000 after a worker was caught in a moving cable. And in a separate instance later that year, the company was fined $90,000 after a worker was caught and dragged into a conveyor. Well, two Leamington men are being hailed as heroes after they rescued a woman from a burning house. They both work at Sun Parlor Long-Term Care Home and were on their way back when they noticed a cloud of smoke and saw a home on fire. They stopped their truck and jumped into action.
Honestly, I don't think we thought. We just seen the smoke, but then we seen flames. Dylan just stopped. Somebody was behind us, I think, noticed like gawking or whatever, so he kind of waved him around. He backed the truck up. A neighbor with her son was running around the corner, and I rolled down the window and asked if they called 911. If she said she was on the phone with them, Dylan pulled the truck right around the corner, stopped in front of the neighbor's house so we wouldn't block in front of the house that was on fire, and we both just got out and ran. I don't think we thought it happened so quick.
And there was a young girl coming out of the house, and we asked her if there was anyone else in the house, and she said there was one more person. So again, Kevin went into the house. I followed. I kind of stood more in the living room near the door, and Kevin, we were both yelling, trying to get attention because we couldn't find the basement. That's where the girl was located. And we're probably in there for 45 seconds to a minute. Felt a lot longer than that, but near the end, by the last 5 seconds, Kevin found the basement door, and by the time he was yelling, she was thankfully coming up. She had been sleeping down there, and I ushered her out towards the door, and then we all exited the house.
And I should add that Kevin Soulier sprung into action even though his right leg was broken and in a cast. Colette Kennedy, pretty cloudy today, but overall pretty nice still.
Yeah, so many pockets where things are nice with even some sun kind of poking through there. And then elsewhere, we've got these thunderstorms that have been bubbling up and some on the stronger side. So around Strathroy, London, that area, a severe thunderstorm warning is in place. I'm going to go into more details on that coming up a little bit later in the show and what we can expect. But the risk is there tonight. The low 17, some patchy fog development, and that could linger into tomorrow morning. And then we get scattered showers and thunderstorms again tomorrow afternoon with a high of 22.
All right, thanks, Colette. A coroner's inquest into the death of a man at Windsor's Southwest Detention Center has concluded, and the jury has made nearly 24 recommendations to help prevent future deaths. Nathaniel Krug was 21 in the jail in 2021 and died of a drug overdose. Many of the recommendations focused on detecting drugs and preventing their circulation behind bars. Jurors even recommended adding canine units and putting naloxone inside cells. The jury also recommended having specialized body scan operators, as well as looking at a tracking system of health and safety concerns from inmates. Well, a man was stabbed early this morning outside of Street Help, a local drop-in center for people who are homeless. It happened around 8 this morning on Wyandotte Street East. Police say the victim's injuries are not life-threatening and a suspect has been taken into custody. The stabbing occurred before Street Help opened for the day, but its administrator says blood could still be seen at the front steps. For her, the altercation also hits close to home as the victim turned out to be her great-nephew. She says her whole family is shaken. Street Help moved its daily meal service to an adjacent building for the day. Well, Canada's major banks, along with other groups, have united to fight scams. But as reporter Sophia Harris reports, some critics say the coalition fails to address a big part of the problem.
A new anti-scam coalition, including police, major telcos, and the big banks, is pledging to fight financial fraud. The coalition's first plan of attack? Teaching people how to avoid getting scammed.
The campaign, like itself, is kind of insulting to me.
Bank scam victims like Jessica Fraser feel the coalition's efforts fall short because it doesn't address refunds for the victims.
They make it look like the banks are standing up for the customers, but my experience, the reality is very different.
In June, Fraser got a call from a man claiming to be with TD Bank's fraud department. The scammer told Fraser her bank account had been compromised.
I just remember feeling really panicked.
He got Fraser to transfer her money, $10,000, out of her account, assuring her it would be safeguarded. But Fraser soon discovered that $10,000 was gone. TD Bank refused to reimburse her.
They should have some kind of accountability. They're supposed to be the gatekeepers of my money, and I trusted them to safeguard me. And instead, I'm left carrying the burden.
In an email to CBC News, TD Bank said Fraser's case was assessed objectively and in accordance with our policies and procedures. CBC News has reported several recent stories where bank scam victims were denied refunds.
Really, banks are having a lot of trouble with customers making a big stink.
The chair of the anti-scam coalition, also a bank industry rep, said the coalition will coordinate efforts to stop scammers before they can target Canadians. But this cybersecurity expert argues scam victims also need help.
I think refunds for customers should be front and center.
In Canada, there are no legislative requirements for banks to reimburse customers for fraudulent bank account transactions. Ottawa has proposed stronger protections, but no word yet on when or if Canadians could see change. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation will be marked next Tuesday, September 30th, a day that honors children who never returned home from residential schools and survivors. A residential school site in southern Ontario has reopened to the public for the first time in years. The Mohawk Institute closed in the 70s after thousands of children were forced to attend. Now, Lisa Shing now on how its new purpose serves as a testimonial to the experiences they endured.
The stories of survivors now immortalized in this space.
It was not a school, it was not an educational institution.
Doug George, taken from his family in the 60s at the age of 11. He remembers never having enough to eat, witnessing sexual abuse, being beaten. All kinds of horrors at the Mohawk Institute, the longest-running residential school in Canada.
There was a deep sense of apprehension and fear because if you didn't obey the rules, and corporal punishment was swift and it was brutal.
His story and those of 15,000 other children forced through its doors over 140 years are now preserved here. In disrepair, the building closed 6 years ago, walls laden with lead paint and asbestos.
Where you are today was our dining room.
After a $26 million renovation, it's opening for the first time as a museum, part of the Woodland Cultural Centre.
We can say what happened to us. This is our truth. This building will tell you the truth. It makes you realize how real and authentic that experience was when you're in the physical space where those atrocities happened.
And never be referred to as Indians again.
The exhibits include films and original furniture like this table showing children's scribbles underneath. These bricks, survivors and family members' names inscribed.
We had to go through mountains of historical records and documents.
And through hours of interviews with the survivors, according to the project's senior historian and curator.
How in the world could this happen to children? But I'm glad also to be part of the recovery, part of the healing.
And a critical part of the country's past.
This is an integral part of Canadian history. It's just something that you can't just brush aside.
All evidence of the trauma and resilience. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Brantford, Ontario.
And back to local news now. A film produced here in Windsor, Essex is about to go on tour right across North America. The filmmakers behind the critically acclaimed film Vampire Zombies from Space are embarking on a tour they're calling the Drac Attack Tour. The film will be screened at theaters in 17 cities, all the way from LA, all the way here to Lakeshore. Some of the minds behind the quirky horror comedy talked about the film and the tour.
The dead have awakened.
There's a lot of strange things happening in your town.
The saucers have landed. And if the bats on strings don't get you, the vampires will.
Hi, I'm Jacob Scrippa, and today we're going to be talking about the Drac Attack Tour. I've been fortunate enough to travel around with the film in all across Latin America, Europe, the US, and Canada. It's just amazing to see people loving the film, even with subtitles, reacting to it and laughing, and it's just icing on the cake. It's going to be a really fun ride. We're encouraging people to wear costumes, dress up, grab some beers, grab some friends, and come see a dumb space vampire comedy.
On set, we had so much fun, and you're like, oh, this is gonna be great, but you never know what the actual reaction is gonna be with the audience, and so it's been really exciting to see, how far and wide this film has gone, and winning awards and all that sort of stuff. It's just amazing. Going on the road with it, and most of them are one-night only events. We'll have cast Q&As and things like that. It's not just a night at the movies. It's a bit of an event. It's an experience. It's great to see it with friends, come in costume. There's a couple times in the movie when they say the title Vampire Zombies from Space. We want people to cheer and have fun with it, right? So yeah, and seeing it kind of evolve into this kind of cult status has been really great. It's kind of a North American invasion of our film.
Vampire Zombies from Space.
I'm Pratish Dayal, and for the past month, we at CBC Windsor have been diving into stories right here in Sandwich Town. It started after we held a listening session in this West Windsor community last year. You told us what mattered to you, the stories you wanted to hear, the answers you hoped for. We have spent the summer digging into these issues, from a lack of basic essential services like a grocery store to derelict homes that attract squatters and skunks. We've heard from you, and now we're inviting you to hear from us. This Friday night, join us for a live taping of our radio show, Windsor Morning at Mackenzie Hall. I'll be there with host Amy Daw to discuss what all we have learned so far. You can find the link to register and all of the details for this free event on your screen. We hope to see you there.
And that film, Vampire Zombies from Space, will screen in Lakeshore from October 17th to the 23rd. A live look at our tower cam outside. A cloudy day, a decent day. Colette will have more for what's in store later on in the show, and more news right after the break. U.S. President Donald Trump addressed the United Nations General Assembly today. He had lots to say about immigration, energy policies, and the growing support for a Palestinian state. It was his first in-person speech in 7 years. The CBC's Anis Hadari has more.
The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Donald Trump.
Donald Trump seemed to come out swinging for the United Nations in his speech to the UN General Assembly. The U.S. president rejecting what he called the failed approaches of the past and also calling out countries who have recognized the state of Palestine, calling that a reward for Hamas, and concerns about how the UN spends money to support migrants and refugees.
The best example is the #1 political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders.
Earlier in the day, the UN Secretary General speaking in defense of his organization before Donald Trump had his chance to speak up.
International cooperation is not naivete. It is hard-headed pragmatism. In a world where there's leap borders, isolation is an illusion. No country can stop a pandemic alone. No army can halt rising temperatures. No algorithm can rebuild trust once it is broken.
But despite those words, also talk of, quote, relentless human suffering in the world. The Secretary General also saying the principles of the United Nations are under siege. Russia's war in Ukraine also in the spotlight at the UN, as Donald Trump called China and India the primary funders of that ongoing conflict by purchasing energy from Russia, something he also said he'll be discussing with European leaders at the UN.
Europe has to step it up. They can't be doing what they're doing. They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them.
And yet, about an hour after a speech where he implied the UN creates and finances invasions, Trump sat in a meeting with the Secretary General and said his country is behind the United Nations 100%, even though he might disagree with it sometimes. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Washington.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has co-chaired a session at the UN with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. The main focus was about returning Ukrainian children that Russia abducted during the war. The CBC's Evan Dyer has more.
Once unable to travel to the General Assembly because of war, President Volodymyr Zelensky made a point this year of coming in person.
Thanks, Canada. Thank you, Mark, for your strong leadership.
Part of his mission here is one led by Canada, an effort to recover Ukraine's 20,000 stolen children.
Russia has repeatedly targeted the most vulnerable groups of children, including orphans, children with disabilities, children from poor families.
Charged with war crimes by the International Criminal Court, Vladimir Putin and Maria Lvova-Belova, head of an organization that takes children from Ukraine and places them in Russian orphanages or gives them out for adoption.
Russian soldiers have entered classrooms and forcibly rounded up children, taking them to Russian schools and orphanages.
Today, Canada pledged $2 million for an AI tracking system to try to find the missing kids inside Russia.
Everyone thought Russia would win this war in 3 days, but it didn't work out that way.
And Zelensky might also have been somewhat encouraged by a change in tone from Donald Trump.
It's not making Russia look good. It's making them look bad. It shows you what leadership is, what bad leadership can do to a country.
Not only were there harsh words for Putin, but also much kinder ones for Zelensky.
He's a brave man, and he's putting up one hell of a fight.
And the change in posture seemed to go beyond mere pleasantries.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
But Trump saved the biggest surprise for his Truth Social account, saying he now believes Ukraine is in a position to win back all of its territory and maybe even grab parts of Russia, something Ukraine has never shown any interest in doing. Until today, the Trump administration had always insisted that Ukraine would have to give up some of its territory in return for peace. The whiplash-inducing turns in policy leave Ukraine and other allies guessing if this is a real change in the U.S. approach or if this is just more freestyling by the U.S. president that could all be forgotten tomorrow. Evan Dyer, CBC News, New York.
And still to come here on CBC Windsor News, Colette Kennedy is standing by live for a full look at your weather coming up right after the break.
full.
Time now for a live look at weather. Colette Kennedy, of course, joins us for that. And Colette, I'll admit, I took a little peek ahead, and you did mention this. It seems like we have a couple days of rain, but then there's this stretch of sunshine just to look forward to.
Yeah, we're going to get back into that kind of a pattern, Jason. You're quite right. So for anyone who, has encountered some of these isolated cells of showers or thunderstorms and the downpours, hey, a couple of days with this unstable air mass, and then it's all going to flip around again on us, and we'll be hoping and wishing for rain. So current temperatures 24, but we were up to 26 degrees. And in fact, the humidex value is below 30, but it was at 32. So these are some kind of muggy, sticky conditions for now the first full day of fall 2025. Some of the stronger cells and more active weather has been a little bit further to the north and east, over towards London. There was a severe thunderstorm warning there. That has been lifted. However, not too far away towards Strathroy, there's still a severe thunderstorm warning there unless that gets lifted here in the next little bit. So I would still watch out for the biggest concern with these, or biggest hazard, are the heavy downpours. So 50 to 75 millimeters of rain. They're moving kind of slow, so in a short period of time, and that can pose a risk for some flash flooding. You see a nice dry slot back into southwestern Ontario, but there's more activity, and it's that same kind of scenario. Those things will wind down, but the remnants tend to make their way through as we go through the evening hours and later evening hours. So still those rain chances here for the next few hours, or a little more than the next few hours. And then we'll probably just get into a situation with some fog here and there that lingers into early tomorrow morning. And then if a bit of sun breaks through that cloud deck, that just enhances that scenario. And into the afternoon, some isolated showers and thunderstorms bubbling up. And this is tomorrow afternoon. But then things get kind of a little more organized and a bit more widespread as we move through Thursday. We lose some of this instability once we get into the evening hours, and we'll get some clearing and some sunshine in here. And that means Friday is when we can kind of count on having more comfortable and sunny conditions in time for the weekend, right? Hard for the models to pick up exactly where the rain will be when you're talking about these kind of scattered showers and thunderstorms. Locally, heavier amounts where you get one of those downpours, and that pushes those numbers up. 22 tomorrow, 23 on Thursday. It's not going to be cloudy all day. We will get into some clearing and sun in the afternoon, and then just isolated showers, and then sunny and warm to end up the week.
All right, thanks so much, Colette. Appreciate it. And that's it for us here at CBC. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Good night.